Okay, bom dia, good afternoon, and welcome to the Soul Adventure Playshop. My name is Chris Paradox, your angelic host and humble servant. So for the next 90 minutes, I'm going to do a development of my usual workshop. I do something called workshop or performance. It's kind of a performance workshop where I give sort of inspirational stories, beat poetry, and at the end I'm going to do half an hour of live looping, which is fun. But the whole theme of the Playshop is to inspire you to live from your soul, your true self, that part of you that is connected with everything. Nature, humanity, the planet, the universe, spirit, love, God, life. And I think the best way for me to start is to tell you the story of how I became Chris Paradox. And it started in 2001 when I was managing director of an advertising agency, or a media buying division of an advertising agency. And for 5 years, I'd made more money for the larger agency than anyone else. So they were very happy with me, and they decided to make me director. And the directors took me out to a lunch in a really posh restaurant in Holland Park. And in the back of my mind, I've always been somebody that asked the big questions. Who am I? Why are we here? What's it all about? And I thought, because I felt the directors were they were the people I looked up to, captains of industry. I thought they were the wisest people I knew. So my plan was, after the dinner, after drinks and dinner, I would ask them the big question: what's it all about? What's the meaning of life? Which I did, and I went around the table. There was literally 12, very cliche, but 12 middle-aged white men going through midlife crises, buying TVR sports cars and Triumph motorbikes, living in Chiswick. And I asked them all, what's it all about? Why are we here? And every single one of them gave me the darkest, most nihilistic answers you could imagine. I don't know if you know Game of Thrones, but their answers were a bit like Littlefinger's answer. Chaos is a ladder. They said things like, love is a romantic delusion, it's dog eat dog, kill or be killed, there's no place for sentiment, there's no place for care and empathy, you've got to be ruthless. And by the time I went around the table, I was absolutely and completely disillusioned, because I'd looked up to these guys for the previous 5 years. I wanted to be like them. And once I realized how they saw the world, I realized I was nothing like them, and I didn't want to be anything like them. And so it was a bit like people who've worked in the corporate world have often said this. I was climbing the corporate ladder for years, and as I reached the top, I realized the ladder was up against the wrong wall. So I got off and had a spiritual experience, read a book called Conversations with God, which triggered a series of mystical experiences. And within less than a year, about 9 months, I'd gone from managing director of an advertising agency, earning 70k a year, car, house, wife, 2 kids, to sleeping under a tree in a sleeping bag, a tree in Battersea Park, central London, and selling the big issue, which I did for 7 months. And that was when I first experienced a soul rebellion. Because the first night I went into the park because I just genuinely couldn't live in the world anymore. I discovered a bunch of stuff about how the banking and money system works, and it was very clear to me at that time, and it's becoming clearer to people right now because of what's happened with COVID. It's a hoax, by the way, and what's happening with Black Lives Matter, that's another hoax, or a psyop. It became very clear to me 18 years ago that the authorities of this world were not benevolent. They don't really care about the people. They care about power and profit, which is why we're destroying the planet for power and profit, and why we exploit, kill, murder, subjugate, enslave the people for power and profit. I call it the emperor's new clothes. If you know the fairy tale, the emperor was conned into wearing nothing, but told it was a beautiful suit that only stupid people couldn't see. So everyone in the court didn't want to look stupid, so they all pretended he was actually wearing clothes when he was naked. And he went out parading along the streets, and all the people had heard that only stupid people couldn't see it, so all the people pretended to see it, and they're all, oh God, the emperor looks so wonderful in his beautiful clothes. And a little boy who wasn't self-conscious and didn't succumb to the mass delusion simply pointed and said, look, the emperor has no clothes. And that's how I felt 18 years ago when I saw that everybody believed what they heard in the media, they believed what the government said, they believed what the health authorities said, and I knew it was all bullshit. So I couldn't live in the world anymore. I went to work for Friends of the Earth after leaving the advertising agency, because I thought at least if I work for a charity that's supporting the earth, that would be something good I could do with my life. And then I discovered that the major charities, particularly the environmental ones, are co-opted by the system, and they don't really help and they don't really change anything. So I decided I'm going to go and live under a tree in a park, make myself homeless, sell the big issue. I'm just going to be a bum. I just gave up on all my ambitions and all that kind of stuff, and just said I'm going to be a bum until the universe, life, God shows me the purpose of my life. And the first night I went into the park, I took a bin liner of books, bin liner of clothes, and a sleeping bag. Found a little area, fenced off area called the Meadow, settled down to sleep there, and I had three things running through my mind. The first was, I'm a black person and we don't like bog. We don't like creepy crawly and all them. So I was afraid that I would be covered in bugs and creepy crawlies. That didn't happen, thankfully. I was in England. It was April the 12th, 2002. So April is known for April showers. And so I was afraid I would get rained on. I didn't have a tent or a cover or anything like that. And it actually did rain a little bit, but the tree protected me, so it wasn't too bad. But the thing I was really afraid of was, am I mad? I kept asking myself, am I mad? 9 months ago, 70 grand a year, managing director, blah, 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 blah. And now here I am, sleeping under a tree in a sleeping bag, homeless. All my friends thought I'd gone crazy. My wife left me. My mum disowned me. I was completely ostracized, completely alone. And I literally was saying, I must be mad. I must be mad. Oh my God, is this how you become the mad black guy that lives in the park? And somehow, even though I had that running through my head, I must have fallen asleep, because the next thing I remember was waking up in the morning, and before I even opened my eyes, I heard the most beautiful bird song I'd ever heard. And I opened my eyes, and there was a bird about this far away from me, looking directly at me, singing this beautiful song. And it might as well have been, morning has broken, like, etc. It was literally like that. It was like waking up in a Disney movie, or waking up in paradise, or waking up in heaven. I looked up and the sun was reflecting rainbows through the dewdrops, and everything looked alive and beautiful. And I didn't realize it at the time, but because I'd gone to live in the park and decided to be a nobody, I'd let go of all my masks and roles and costumes that we all wear, these sort of temporary identities that we take on and put off. I'd let go of all of those, and I was just a nobody. And that state of being nobody is a state of innocence, and it's a state of your soul, because we have plenty of temporary, what I call false identities, but we only have one true identity, and that is our soul identity, the eternal part of us that is always connected with the one and recognizes that everything is part of the one consciousness. And I had a 7-month mystic experience of that innocence, which was the best 7 months of my life. But it wasn't just that everywhere I went, I loved everyone and everything, and everywhere I went, I made people smile. It really had practical effects, which is why I do workshops about soul adventuring, because it's not just a theoretical thing, or it's not just a spiritual thing, it's a practical thing. I have discovered after 18 years of practice, it is the best way to live, from your soul rather than from your separate self, your separate identity, your conditioned identity based on your thoughts and emotions. Your soul is based on witnessing consciousness, awareness, the one who knows, the one who perceives all the thoughts and identities. And the practical effects, the best two examples I can give you is that just before I went into the park, I started selling the Big Issue magazine. For those of you who don't know, the Big Issue is a magazine that homeless people can, at the time, they could buy them for 70p and sell them for £1.20, so you can make 50p profit. No, sorry, you could buy them for 50p and sell them for £1.20, so you made 70p profit. So it was an empowering way for homeless people to have a little business that they could make their own money, so they didn't have to beg and what have you. And I'd already started selling the Big Issue for just over a week, and you know, I sold it with energy and stuff, and I was able to sell about 6 to 8 magazines an hour, and with tips it was about £6 to £8 an hour. The first morning I woke up in the park and I went to Victoria. I had a really good pitch on the corner of Victoria Street. First morning I sold from this state of innocence, or this mystical state of loving everyone and everything and being unconditionally happy. I sold between 15 and 20 magazines an hour and made triple the tips, because people would give me a £5 or give me £2 and say keep the change. And so I started earning up to £60 an hour selling the Big Issue. And on one particular occasion that I'll never forget, I went to my pitch. I was in a particularly high state. I went to get my first magazine out. Oh, I should tell you, my pitch was this. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Get your Big Issue magazine here, the only magazine that helps homeless people to help themselves. Always better to teach a starving man to fish than to give him fish. Wonderful Big Issue magazine, empowering homeless people to help themselves. Let's look who's in the cover today. Oh, it's Brad Pitt. He's a bit of a right, isn't he, ladies? Wouldn't mind getting me laughing gear around his giblets, and I'd just make jokes and be silly and da-da-da. And I started selling. I went to start my pitch, and literally I went, good morning. And before I could say anything, a beautiful woman in an amazing business suit, looked like a top lawyer or banker, came up and gave me £20 and said, I don't want the magazine, I just love your energy, and then walked off. And I thought, oh, thank you very much. And before I could say the next word, another bloke came in a suit, gave me £20 and said, I don't want the Big Issue magazine, I just love your energy. And that kept happening. One after the other, people gave me either a £5, a tenner, or £20. And I sold all 25 magazines in 20 minutes. So that's more than a magazine a minute, and made £140. And I've worked out that's something like 500 something pounds an hour, which is more than a New York lawyer makes. So that was a very practical effect of living from my soul. The second very obvious practical effect, which has given me an 18-year career, is that 3 months into this experience, I read an article about Henry David Thoreau, who was a guy that gave up his sort of privileged life and went to live in the woods and wrote poetry. He was a transcendentalist. He wrote about the connection between man and nature, and he was described as a warrior poet. And I was living in the park at the time, and I said, well, I'm a bit of a warrior poet. I've given up a privileged life to go and live under a tree in a park. And, oh yeah, I like the sound of that. I like the sound of calling myself a warrior poet. And I thought, well, if I'm a warrior poet, I should write some poems. And I had literally never written a poem in my life. Maybe English O-level I was forced to, but I wasn't into poetry. I wasn't creative in any way. And I sat down, I wrote this poem called Park Bench Poet, sent it to the 2 friends I still had. They said it was pretty good. And then the following evening, about 1 o'clock in the morning, I was lying on the sleeping bag and I thought, I wonder if I could write another poem. And 2 poems appeared in my consciousness. And I didn't have a pen and paper. And obviously I was living in a park, so I couldn't get one. And I remember, I've never done this since, I wrote 2 separate poems in my head throughout the night. And then at 6 o'clock, I got up, went to the newsagent, got paper, wrote them down. And from that point on, I was a poet. And I used to do poems for people who bought this Big Issue. Then a friend said to me, or somebody who worked in the Big Issue said to me, why don't you do an open mic? And I didn't even know what an open mic was. And she said, that's where you can go and perform on a stage. Went to do that. First time I went to perform on stage, I did a little set. The people seemed to really like it. And I had another mystical experience. I remember going down to the toilets and sort of collapsing in the stool. And I realized that I'd been given the answer to the question that I asked all the way back in advertising, which is, what's it all about? What's the purpose of life? And for me, definitely in that time, the purpose was to inform, inspire, and empower people through poetry and performance and public speaking. And I've been doing that for 18 years. It's been a way better career than advertising. It's definitely my soul career. It's what my soul wants to do, which is why I've been able to do it for so long. And I hope that's an inspiring example of So many people do jobs and their careers are something that they choose based on what they think they should do, or what their parents think they should do, or what their peers think they should do, or what society thinks they should do. But I would say to you very strongly, you want to try and find out what your soul wants to do. You want to take the time, do a vision quest. I'm sure while WIDER Horizons does something like that. I know Embakum does. Do a vision quest where you take time to go within and really feel into what you really want, what really inspires you, what you really enjoy, what makes you feel connected and alive, what gives your life meaning, what is your highest value. Really explore those questions, and then when you find that thing that just literally makes you come alive, do that. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. So I'm going to get into do some beat poetry now, and I'm going to start off with a poem that I wrote inspired by one of my heroes, Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. And he was a Jewish psychiatrist that was interned in a concentration camp during the Second World War. And as you can imagine, that's the most nightmarish, horrific situation you can imagine. And if you were in a concentration camp, you stood a 1 in 28 chance of surviving. But there were many different ways that people died in concentration camps. And one of them was by what you would call a broken spirit. You just literally cannot take the nightmare and you kind of give up internally. And Viktor Frankl, because of his psychotherapeutic training, after a while he could tell who was going to die of a broken spirit. And so he asked himself the question, what is the difference between people who die of a broken spirit and those people who were lucky enough not to be killed and also managed to maintain their spirits? Because there were actually people in the concentration camps who put on cabaret shows. There were people who went around nursing other people and just selflessly served and helped other people. And he wondered what was the difference. And what he discovered, which was the basis of the book Man's Search for Meaning, that the people who were able to maintain their spirits were the people who were able to find or give meaning to their lives in that most meaningless of situations of being in a concentration camp. And he also discovered that there were only two things really that gave people the power to find meaning in the meaninglessness of a concentration camp. And those two things you'll be happy to hear. The first one was love. Very simple. I'm sure we can all understand that. People decided, I'm going to survive, I'm going to endure because I want to see my wife again, or my children again, or my parents again. So the love of family and partners was enough to give Frankl and some of his friends the power to survive. The second thing that was powerful enough was purpose. And that's why I told you the original story. Purpose is everything, boys and girls. Knowing why you're here, knowing what your soul wants your life for, apart from love, is the most empowering thing you can discover. And he boiled it down, Frankl boiled it down to what he called our one true freedom. And this is the freedom that can never be taken away from you under any circumstances. We see today that the freedom to, if you live in the UK, the freedom to not wear an unhealthy mask on the bus has been taken away. The freedom to sing in the park has been taken away. The freedom to have sex with someone who doesn't live in your household has been taken away. The freedom not to accept mandatory, etc. So those weren't really freedoms, because if it can be taken away, it's not freedom. And the only thing that can never be taken away from you, even in a concentration camp, is your attitude. Attitude is king, because it was their attitude that allowed those people who were in a concentration camp to decide, okay, I'm in a concentration camp, I'm probably going to die, but I am going to choose how to live the rest of my life. I'm going to choose to live with dignity. I'm going to choose to help other people. I'm going to choose to entertain other people, even in a concentration camp. That's attitude, and nobody can take it away from you. And fundamentally what it is attitude gives you, so you got stimulus and response. And animals, we know, if you give them a certain stimulus, they go straight to the response. And most of us if we're insulted or hurt or attacked in some way, we immediately respond with hurt and pain and anger and usually attacking back. But when you can create a gap, and this is what Frankl talked about, between stimulus and response, through attitude, through choosing what to do, through choosing your free will of how to respond, then you are free. That is what freedom is. Freedom is not having to respond automatically or in a conditioned way to painful stimuli. And I wrote this poem in honor of all those human beings, not just the ones in the concentration camps, Nelson Mandela, many, many, many others, Helen Keller, who acted as examples for humanity by living that truth, that we are sovereign beings, and our attitude, the right attitude, the attitude that we are sovereign beings, and that we get to choose how we respond to things, we get to choose what things mean, is the greatest freedom and the greatest power in life, and it's called Attitude Kings. You see, the world is divided into two types of people, but I'm not talking about who I think's good and who I think's evil. I'm talking about the people who disbelieve the unbelievable. I'm talking about the achievers who achieve the unachievable. These are the people who seek to perceive the imperceivable, to dream the unfeasible and seize the keys to the unreachable. Somehow they're able to make the meaningless meaningful, to appease the unappeasable and redeem the irredeemable. And when they make mistakes, they make sure they're only venial. They do what needs to be done, even if it is completely menial. They're utterly dynamic, yet remain serenely peaceable. They never seem to panic. It seems like they've already seen it all. In a sense, they can seem extremely unreasonable. For them, no disease is untreatable. Their attitude's unbeatable. It's inconceivable. Their inspiration isn't streamable. So I wrote this for it to be shared right here between us all. And then there's the other 99.9% of humanity, lost in vanity, insanity, and Bible Belt Christianity. Ecological destruction, materialist induction, and numerous forms of hyper-violent tribal eruptions. Transport disruptions, shopping mall constructions, credit crunch hunger, and public service reductions. Billions live in poverty with no political suction, yet often live more meaningful lives than half the population of London. Where narcissism has now reached epidemic proportions. What's next? A reality show called My First Abortion. Caution, you're now a product of corporate extortion, viewing social media distortion as totally awesome. While acute social torsion causes more and more sons and daughters to be forced into dark and falsely awkward corners, and given no quarter, they're reborn as fallen street maulers, leaving parents who are no more than poor, soul-broken mourners. Yeah, the world's in a mess. Tell us something we don't know. Yeah, the human race looks like it's going the way of the dodo. But what can I do, though? Or Napoleon solo? Well, you can stop blowing your own oboe and get to work in your attitude dojo. No, you don't think so? You want to go on a go slow? I'm young, I want to have fun, I want to get jiggy like a bonobo. Yeah, I should cocoa. But if you don't want to be a no-show, all life asks is you give it 100% of your own flow. See, it's not about what you do, it's about the way that you do it. It's not about what happens, it's about how you respond to it. So when life bites, don't swallow the meaning until you chew it. Because come Judgment Day, you either loved it or you blew it. You see, nothing really matters, is the song life sings. So when death comes to call, he won't give a toss about your bling. What the world needs is the inspiration only you can bring. So be your own inspiration. Be an attitude king. Thank you very much. And the crowd goes wild. I'm just going to pretend and imagine that you're all loving this because I can't tell, although I could check the comments, which I might do a bit later. So for my next poem, I would like to I do a poem which really expresses the mystic experience, what I experienced in the park and what I experience now after 18 years of trying to reverse engineer that experience, I finally found out how to do that, starting about 2 years ago and really seriously about 6 months ago. And I can describe the mystic experience very simply. The mystic experience means that instead of the normal human experience of I am living my life, the mystic experience is that life is living me, or my soul is living me. So I don't view myself as having a life. I view my life as having me. That's the mystic experience in a nutshell. And it means rather than living from your very limited mind, intelligence, knowledge, which is coloured by all of your beliefs and hopes and dreams and fears and biases and illusions, living from your heart and soul, which knows, simply knows what you're supposed to do. And this poem is called What You're Looking With, because the ultimate mystic experience is that what you're looking for, we're all looking for happiness and fulfillment in the world, in relationships, career, material success, fame, accomplishment. And the truth is, the world can't give you those things, because the world is always changing, and there's just no way of controlling the world so that you get those things. And even when you do get them, as I did in advertising, you find out they don't fulfill you. They don't fill the hole. They don't fill the lack. And that's because what you're looking for is what you're looking with. Happiness and fulfillment is who you are. It's what your soul is, and your soul is the one that is the perceiver. Your soul is the one that sees all the thoughts and emotions and beliefs and ideologies and sensations and emotions. It's the one that witnesses them all, as well as witnessing everything that happens in the world. And that's why we seek happiness in the world and never find it, because the one who is looking for it is the happiness. And this poem's about that. And as I say, it's called What You're Looking For. Sorry, What You're Looking With. Paradoxically, I'm not really here when it's coming through me. I'm not really there when it's running through me. So I don't really care if they're gunning for me or whose cup of tea it's gonna be. Fortunately, I don't really need the debauchery. Hedonism isn't what it's thought to be. It's a form of sorcery where you're forced to source dopamine exhaustively. And so you need more and more, and now you're caught, you see. You believe happiness could be bought, you see. Now you're trying to put yourself in the mortuary, because that's where you believe you ought to be. Talk to me, take a trip into reality and walk with me. I don't really care if you're stalking me. You don't need to stare at me awkwardly. I'm just the source informing you. You didn't come here to get, you came here to give. It's through you and you alone that God lives. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. You didn't come here to get, you came here to give. It's through you and you alone that God lives. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. Paradoxically, I'm not really here when it's coming through me. I'm not really there when it's running through me. So I don't really care if they're gunning for me or whose cup of tea it's gonna be. Fortunately, I don't really need the debauchery. Hedonism isn't what it's thought to be. It's a form of sorcery where you're forced to source dopamine exhaustively. So you need more and more, and now you're caught, you see. You believe happiness could be bought, you see. Now you're trying to put yourself in the mortuary, because that's where you believe you ought to be. Talk to me. Take a trip into reality and walk with me. I don't really care if you're stalking me. You don't need to stare at me awkwardly. I'm just the source informing you. You didn't come here to get, you came here to give. It's through you and you alone that God lives. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. You didn't come here to get, you came here to give. It's through you and you alone that God lives. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. What you're looking for is what you're looking with. Thank you very much. And the crowd goes wild. Ah. Okay, so I'll take a quick look at comments. Also, so I can check the time. So I've been on for half an hour. Was part of your path. Everything happens for a reason. That book is amazing. It is. Conversations with God. Thank you for sharing your story. You're very welcome, Amina. Lourdes, wow, that is so inspiring. Yay! That's what I was hoping. Hi, Bernadette. Wow, yes, inspiring. Thank you. Wow, I used to be in advertising 2 years ago. Left all that as it didn't feel right. Now I help people. That's the way. That's the way. Beautiful. A lot of people from advertising come to that realization, Lourdes. Laura Walker, I believe you may enjoy this. Okay, yeah, you're doing it for a friend. Hi, Esmeralda. Bernadette, yes, Lourdes, lovely. Tracy, wow, that was awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Carrie Ann Bailey, fantastic, loved it. Lindsay, hi Lindsay. Mary, Helen, hi. Oh, Mary Chapman Arts, my lovely friend Mary, who joins me on a show I do a Facebook Live every evening at 9 p.m. BST on my page, Chris Paradox, Inspiration Engineer, called the End Times Daily Show, where an oasis of sanity in an insane world. Hi, Mary. Okay, so next poem. So I consider myself a member of the counterculture. And by that I mean, I believe that the mainstream culture's belief that profit is more important than people and planet is insane. And obviously over the years, I've met and become friends with probably hundreds of other people who share that sort of countercultural understanding. And one of the things I've noticed ever since the 60s and the birth of the environmental movement and the civil rights movement, the counterculture, you could say that the counterculture's role is to stop the train of the mainstream culture. It's like a train heading towards a cliff that you would call species extinction. And the job of the counterculture is to switch signals and get our culture and society to move instead to what I call the lush, verdant valleys of evolution. And when I look at the counterculture and how successful it's been in that, it hasn't been very successful. The mainstream culture is heading in the way that we're destroying the planet, and the way we treat our children and our women and everyone. We're clearly accelerating towards that cliff as fast as we ever have been, faster maybe. So I have to ask the question, given how many amazing, intelligent, creative, passionate, heart-centered people are involved in the counterculture and are activists and doing great work in the world, how is it the counterculture hasn't been able to stop the mainstream culture? And when I ask that question, the answer I get is something my mum used to say to me when I was a kid that I didn't understand then, but I do now. She used to say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And when I look at my own life, I look at the good intentions I have to stop smoking or lose weight or be a better father or a better partner. And I find that those things aren't as simple as intending them. They take a lot of work because I have my stuff, I have my patterns, I have my conditioning, I have my beliefs, I have my shadow. I have all this stuff that blocks me and keeps me in bad habits. And I realize that surely it's the same with the counterculture. It's the reason that the counterculture, even though it's got so much potential, hasn't managed to slow or change the direction of the mainstream culture's suicidal species extincting train, is because the counterculture has got stuff. So I wrote this poem as a call to arms to my fellow members of the counterculture, and also an excuse to take the piss out of me and all my mates. It's called Tribesters, because we tend to think of ourselves as part of the countercultural tribe. And yeah, that's probably enough. I'll just do it, shall I? So this is called Tribesters. Da 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 da. We got the da 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 da. We got the da 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 da. We got the da 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 da. Raw fooders, anarchy activists, new age hippies, supernatural pagans and spiritual devotees, conscious evolvers, healers and yogis, psychedelic shaman and indigenous wannabes. The tribesters are calling, they're calling your name to big up the counterculture and put Babylon to shame. Can't you hear the tribesters are calling, they're calling your name to big up the counterculture and put Babylon to shame. Cooked food is poison and raw is non-toxic. So why are so many raw fooders borderline psychotic? Activists campaigning and shaming Babylon, giving their heart and soul to fight for right over wrong, but projecting their pain and abandonment issues is sustaining the status quo in a zero-sum lose-lose. Pagan earth angels worshipping Gaia and the Green Man, cursing technology while living in a transit van. The new age's thought craze is a completely new paradigm, creating your own reality with nothing but the power of the mind. Got hearts in the right place and a genuine love of mankind, but an egotistical, oversimplistical blind leading the blind. Raw fooders, anarchy activists, new age hippies, supernatural pagans and spiritual devotees, conscious evolvers, healers and yogis, psychedelic shaman and indigenous wannabes. The tribesters are calling, they're calling your name to big up the counterculture and put Babylon to shame. Can't you hear the tribesters are calling, they're calling your name to big up the counterculture and put Babylon to shame. Spiritual, transcendental, I'm so non-attached, but you're still clinging to your beliefs, mate, so don't give me that crap. Meditating, contemplating, resting in the witness, but still acting like a junkie that's desperate for a fix of his bliss. I'm so fucking conscious, so multidimensionally evolved, sitting on my high horse and my lower chakra problems have been solved. Self-important asshole, dabbling in the dark side, giving orgasms to his harem while his bank account starts to rise. I'm a healer, I'm a feeler, I'm a wakey master, but I've got no charm for a broken arm, because I'm no mere plaster caster. I'm an Ashtanga, Yogananda, Iyengar maestro. My kundalini's rising, but my pain body's out of control. Raw fooders, anarchy activists, new age hippies, supernatural pagans and spiritual devotees, conscious evolvers, healers and yogis, psychedelic shaman and indigenous wannabes. The tribesters are calling, they're calling your name to big up the counterculture and put Babylon to shame. Can't you hear the tribesters are calling, they're calling your name to big up the counterculture and put Babylon to shame. Psychonauts and trippy chicks want to open up the legs of our minds, travelling to universes way beyond everyday space and time. But instead of using these pointers to accelerate and integrate growth, it's a solipsistic, self-infatuated neurochemical joke. I wanna be a Hopi or honorary Cherokee chief, but I'm conveniently ignoring their misogynistic beliefs. I'm drinking ayahuasca, I'm a Mayan calendar rainbow kin, abstracting fantastic realities, 'cause I can't deal with the real thing. My brothers, my sisters, mi familia, mi amigos. Might we be taking ourselves a tad too serious? Our beliefs are just stories we tell ourselves just to cope. We've got to send them up, not to get hung up on our very own rope-a-dope. Now guess who's the biggest culprit when it comes to disappearing up their arse? I used to think I was enlightened when I lived under a tree inside a park. We've got to face the here and now reality without the crutch of belief. If we want to create a new world that makes Babylon obsolete, need a beginner's mind that's been refined and an unconditional heartbeat. If we want to create a new world before Babylon's obsolete. Boom. Thank you very much. And the crowd goes wild. 1:40, okay, we're good for time. Let's have a quick look at comments. Fantastic, loved it, thank you. Mary, hi Chris, Mary. Emma, love it, thank you. Tracy, love it, thank you. Aziba, awesome, thank you. Mary, hilarious, thank you, Mary. Sarah Jones, wish I'd have been there at the actual festival for this. Yeah, that would be fun, wouldn't it? So I'm going to do one more poem, then tell another story about how I lost my leg and how it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then I'm going to do the live looping. We'll get the amp up and I'll use the mic. So this last poem is, I am a devotee of love. And when I say love, I mean unconditional love or divine love, true love, which ask for nothing in return. It's not conditional on people treating you the way you want. You just love. It comes out of you, it comes from your soul, and you just love. And I'm a devotee of true love, and I wrote a poem. I have one love poem, and it's really about that. And it's based on the fact that when I was younger, I was terrible at relationships. Didn't understand women, ruined lots of relationships, and I always wished that I had an older brother. I didn't, but I always wish I had an older brother who, when I discovered girls, 14, 15, 16, and went crazy, as young men do, I wish I had an older brother, because my dad never really talked to me, who was maybe about 28 and had been around the block a bit, had some experience with women, settled down, had a nice young lady and maybe a baby. And so this poem is written in the voice of my imaginary older brother, and it's called Love Complex, because love is complex. And when we fall in love, we tend to develop a mental condition that you could call a complex. So this is Love Complex. Eyes meet, magnetic attraction, she looks sweet, it's time for some action. Introduction like conversation, then deduction if it's progress you're making. Is she smiling? Is the ice breaking? Is she liking the line that you're taking? You start to charm, she touches your arm. Heartbeat fast but your voice stay calm. She shifts her stance, she gives you a glance. You take a chance, you ask her to dance. She likes your style, she likes your vibe. The shine in her eyes makes your pants come alive. Surprise, surprise, she gives up the digits. What, like a king? Yes, bruv, you did it. You call her up, you make a date. Wanna take her to a place you know be great. You pick her up, she's dressed to kill. Not sure if you score, but you hope you will. Make her feel like a queen, you know the drill. You're an alpha male, you gotta show your skill. You get to know what she's all about. She's a keeper without a doubt. You met your match and love's roundabout. You feel so good, bruv, you wanna shout. Wanna tell your mates that you're going out. And you can't be seen with no lager louds. You can't be risking seeing the first pow. You're a don and you gotta just rinse it out. You take her home, she gives you a kiss, but you can't come in, she ain't that type of miss. But that's alright, it's just the first date, and you know this girl will be worth the wait, worth the wait. Love is a complex animal, it's totally multi-dimensional. Love is a complex animal, it's emotional and it's chemical. Love is a complex animal, it's hyper, super, psychological. Love is a complex animal, love is complex, that's the context, it's a love complex. Next day is to the theatre, you take her, now she knows you're a smooth operator. You take her home, she lets you in, she makes you coffee and you start to grin. You start to talk intimately, you start to feel electricity. She starts to breathe more heavily, earth doesn't get more heavenly. You start to kiss, you get it on, you think you're gonna get jiggy to the break of dawn, and then she pulls away and she tells you straight she doesn't give it up on the second date. Your stiffy collapses, this is not a doddle, you were sure you were gonna get to wibble wobble, but then she says we can still have a cuddle, but no monkey business, don't you get in a muddle. She needs to know if she can trust. You're beginning to think that you're not so bust. You're thinking lust, she's thinking love. You can't be thinking with your bollocks, bruv. You hug and kiss, you stroke a bit. She even lets you play with her juicy bits, but that's it, you gotta hold it down. If you wanna be a prince, you better earn your crown. Next day, you cook a dinner. This time you know you're on to a winner. Third time lucky, that's what they say. It's your night, bro, it's your lucky day. The gloves are off, full power, full play. Sexy diva, hot like Beyonce. She's so sweet, you can't get enough. You thought you knew, but you never knew love. She blows your mind, she rocks your world. You can't believe you got with this girl. You make her come and you make her come and you make her come until you think you're done. And then she wakes you up to make her come some more. You bump and grind till you're both too sore. Lord have mercy, the girl's a freak. Dreams do come true and life is sweet. Life is sweet. Love is a complex animal, it's totally multi-dimensional. Love is a complex animal, it's emotional and it's chemical. Love is a complex animal, it's hyper, super, psychological. Love is a complex animal, love is complex, that's the context, it's a love complex. Baby, baby, you have my attention. Baby, baby, let me take away your tension. Baby, baby, love is my intention. Baby, baby, you're the queen of my erection. Baby, baby, I love you so. Baby, baby, I'm digging on your flow. Baby, baby, I know you know. Baby, baby, you make my pole grow. All of a sudden, the honeymoon's up. Now you're drinking from a dark, half-empty cup. What you used to love puts you in a huff. It was all so sweet, now what the fuck? She wants you to talk, she wants you to listen. She wants you to be strong, she wants you to give in. She wants you to relax, she wants you to be driven. She wants your children, but not the way you're living. She's changed, but she's not alone. 5 times a day, you used to call her on the phone. Used to bring her flowers that will brighten up her home. Now you're complaining that she won't leave you alone. They're the symptoms, they're not the disease. Our heart's a lot, but we got the keys. The woman you love is a little girl too. The man she adores is a little boy blue. They're scared of her and they're scared of pain. Wounded children are all the same. Call it shadow or any other name. All that shame, there's always somebody to blame. Emotional repression leads to projection. Deep down we're all afraid of rejection. We build our armor to offer us protection, but only when we're open can we learn from the lesson. Emotional repression leads to projection. Deep down we're all afraid of rejection. We build our armor to offer us protection, but only when we're open can we learn from the lesson. Truth is your little kid needs love. Truth is romance ain't enough. Truth is we all know this stuff. Truth is love's tough. Truth is your little kid needs love. Truth is romance ain't enough. Truth is we all know this stuff. Truth is love's tough. Truth is your little kid needs love. Truth is romance ain't enough. Truth is we all know this stuff. Truth is love's tough. Thank you very much. And the crowd goes wild. Let's check the time and the comments. 1:49. Okay, good. So I've still got 40 minutes left. Let's have a look. Hi Mary, took your time but you found it. Like the headgear, yeah, I'm liking it too. Hi Emma, thank you, love it. Tracy, love it, thank you. Asbia, awesome, thank you. Ramajan, hi Ramajan. Sarah, I've said this before, sorry. Sarah, amazing. Bernadette, amazing, I said that one before. Heidi, hi Heidi. The crowd indeed goes wild, oh thank you. Sarah, woohoo, thank you Sarah. Aziba, your setting looks amazing too. Solar on the roof, absolutely. Where are you? I'm in Quinta d'Amor, the love farm, the property of my beautiful friends Carl and Pretty, which is near Alpedrina in eastern northern Portugal. Hi Fiona, Brooke Galloway, me too Sarah, loving the festival, loving the flow, thank you Aziba. Tracy Rebel, ha ha ha, Tracy, definitely true there. Mary Chapman, beautiful, thank you very much. Okay, so one more quick story about how I lost my leg. So I wonder if I can show you. Hold on, 1 second. You can see that? That's my lovely artificial leg. There's a whole story around how I lost my leg. I'm realizing that I can't tell you the whole thing because it will take too long, but I lost it while I was traveling around Mexico on horseback as part of the Nomads United horse caravan. 30 people, pretty much even, 15 guys, 15 girls, riding horses around Mexico, putting on circus shows at local villages. Adventure of a lifetime. You can check them out, Nomads United. I believe they're still doing it. And I'd been at a rainbow gathering for 3 months before that, which was another amazing experience. Joined the caravan, and one day we arrived at a new village with all the horses, took them into the river to wash them, as we often did. Some local kids were coming out and they were jumping off a cliff into the river. It was about the same size as a high board in the swimming pool. And it was the sort of thing we did all the time. We were always jumping into rivers and playing around. So I climbed up the cliff and stood right next to where they were standing. And I said, is it safe to jump? And they said, see, 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 see. And I jumped, and I think because I was bigger than them and I pencil jumped, I went deeper. And where I went into the water, there was a rock sticking out the riverbed, and my heel went light on the rock. And as my Jamaican uncle would say, mash up my leg there. Mash up my leg there. And basically mashed up my leg. And 3 angels who were on the caravan, 3 rainbow goddesses, Megan, Pachan and Sulla, volunteered to take me to the nearest hospital, which was actually 5 hours away. When they got to the hospital, I didn't know this at the time, but the doctor said he's got gangrene, gaseous gangrene, so we have to amputate straight away, otherwise he might die. And the girls were like, no fucking way, you don't amputate his leg, we need to find something else to do. And the doctor said, well, there's nothing else we can do. And he said, no, let's see about that. And being the rainbow goddesses they are, they discovered something called hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which is where you breathe oxygen in a sealed container, and you breathe oxygen, and the pressure allows 2,000% more oxygen than normal to be dissolved into your blood. And because gangrene is an anaerobic bacteria, it killed the gangrene. So thanks to the girls, and also thanks to that, and then also the girls paid for my hospital bills until they ran out of money. And then they said to me, look, Chris, we haven't got any more money. Can we send an email to your friends and fans all over the world to try and raise money for the rest of your hospital bills, which they did. And a whole bunch of beautiful people put on fundraisers and donated and raised £8,000 to pay all of my bills, and sent me a stack of well-wishing emails. And basically I was completely helpless. And the 9 days I spent in a hospital room with Megan Pachan, who stayed with me, and Sula, was a mystical experience, because I was completely helpless and I completely surrendered, and I just had all this love that I never imagined for 1 second there was that amount of love in the world for me. And basically my heart was sort of smashed open by this love. And so even though I ended up flying back to the UK and having my leg amputated, I never was upset or angry about it or upset. And I've ever since then, that was in 2008, I've been even happier and even more, no, just happier and at peace and a better person since that happened. And the reason for that was, as I said, the heart opening, but specifically I did something, again, that comes from Viktor Frankl, which is I use my understanding of something called reframing, or I call finding the gift. And in traumatic, tragic circumstances, if you have the right attitude, as I said before, you always have the opportunity to decide what things mean. And there's a technique called reframing, which is about this. And it's finding the gift in any situation. And fortunately, I was able, even while I was in the hospital in Mexico, I realized that if I lose my leg, I will be a better inspirational poet, because being an amputee, it's a really clear sign that I have suffered. I've suffered tragedy and trauma, and that will mean that I can connect better with other people, because we've all experienced some level of trauma and tragedy. And so it just means that I'm not talking down to people from a point of view of I'm privileged or whatever. It's just I'm talking to people from a human place of I've suffered too, I know suffering, I know trauma, I know tragedy. And so all the positive stuff I talk about, it's not coming from denial, it's not coming from bypassing, it's not coming from positive thinking. It's coming from facing death, facing darkness, facing fear, facing pain, looking it right in the face and still being happy. That is true happiness, and that is what allowed me to have the career that I have. There's a wonderful saying, it's easy to be happy when life flows along like a sweet song, but the man worthwhile is the man who can smile when everything goes dead wrong. And I live by that. You know, it's easy to be happy when things are going well, but can you be happy when things aren't going well or when they go terribly? If you can, that is a sign that you're living from your soul, because the separate self, the kind of needy, what I call mental patient, Jamie Catter's got a wonderful statement saying, we are all a wise guru in charge of a mental patient. We all have that irrational, crazy part of us. And when that part of you is in control, you certainly cannot be happy if things don't go the way you want them to. But when your wise guru or your soul or your pure awareness is in control, you can be happy in any circumstance. It's unconditional happiness, which is that thing I was saying before. What you're looking for is what you're actually looking with unconditional happiness for unconditional happiness. Okay, that's probably enough about that. So, should we do some live looping? That sounds like a good idea. Let's do a bit of that, shall we? One, two, one, two, one, two, one, two, one, two. Yeah, so last year I started busking in Trafalgar Square, Leicester Square, and the Tate Modern. And I sort of started writing poems that worked with a kind of loop station backing. So I started doing live looping poetry, and I'm going to do a couple of pieces for you now. The first one was just what I do. I tend to do is I have these riffs, these little mantra kind of chants, and I just use them to make the music. So this one is a poem called Absolutely, and it's about experiencing the absolute of unity in a group of people in a sort of fun context when we're all singing and dancing. So you know when you go to a great party or a great concert and everybody's enjoying themselves and everyone's in the moment together, that is what this poem song Loop Station live looping is all about, and it's called Absolutely. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, a pop-up, stand up, a pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. Duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, a pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, a pop-up, stand up, a pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. A pop-up, stand up, duh, duh. Duh, duh. Pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party. Pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party. Pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party. Dance party, dance party. Pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party. Pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party. Pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party. Dance party, dance party, pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop-up, dance party, dance party, pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop-up, stand up, poetic dance party. Dance party, dance party, pop up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop up, stand up, pop up, stand up. So this is called Absolutely. Poetic dance party, pop up, stand up, poetic dance party, pop up, stand up, poetic dance party. Dance party, dance party. We were all rocking it down at the Tate Modern with the ladies and the gentlemen, the exalted and the downtrodden. We were rocking it with the unconditionally loved and the woefully misforgotten. We were rocking it with all the fallen angels who long for belonging. Every mother's daughter yet to hear her soul song from within. Every father's son yet to feel the freedom of freely giving. Yet we were bringing everything. Bottom line, it was divine. We were all just singing together in harmony as one, because that was our job in the beginning, and we got the job done. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. I'm loving this like Miss Elizabeth Bennet was loving Mr. Darcy. Ha ha ha, see what I did there with that little bit of literary smart-arsery? Pardon me. Honestly, I just can't help this heartfelt poetry. It just pours out of me, spontaneously and automatically, involuntarily and emphatically, and hopefully impactfully. So please lean back for me, relax for me. Kick your shoes off, let your hair down and express yourself ecstatically. Feel free to have an epiphany. Allow yourself to feel peak synchronicity. Go ahead, realize the eternal truth of non-duality. No, there's no charge, it's on me. Yeah, it's absolutely free. You are absolutely free. Absolutely. There we go. And the crowd goes wild. Okay, so that was a bit of Absolutely there. And this second piece, similar vibe. It's something that I wrote to be done. It's such a shame that we can't do this live because basically I usually get the audience to sing the loop as the chorus, and it's great when everyone sings it together. But again, I wrote a poem that was, or a hook, that described what we were doing. So what I like to do is spontaneous, inspirational, comedic, poetic, melodic flash mobs. That's basically what it is, and that is the name. That is the name of the song. And I am going to do that for you now. Let me just check that the levels are okay on that. Can you let me know if the levels were okay on that, guys? I'll watch on replay, not long caught you. Yes, it makes you authentic. The same losing my dear friend to suicide. Thank you, Mary. Yeah. It does make you authentic when you've suffered tragedy and loss. Love your high vibration. Thank you, Bernadette. Mary Chapman, inspiring. Hi, Layla. Oh, Layla! Hello, darling. Maggie, love your use of language and your heart wisdom. Thank you, Maggie. Maggie Ch. Thank you, Maggie. Tracy, thank you, Tracy. Anyone let me know if it's, I guess it's sounding okay, if you heard that okay. So I'll crack on with spontaneous. Spontaneous, inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Inspirational. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, melodic, flash mobs. Spontaneous, inspirational. Comedic, poetic, spontaneous, inspirational. So spontaneous. Spontaneous, inspirational. Inspiration. Spontaneous, inspiration. So spontaneous. Spontaneous, inspiration. Inspiration. Poetic, spontaneous, inspiration. So spontaneous. Spontaneous, inspiration. Inspiration. Spontaneous, inspiration. So spontaneous. Spontaneous, inspiration. Poetic, spontaneous, inspiration. Poetic, melodic, flash mob. Spontaneous, inspiration. Poetic, melodic, flash mob. Spontaneous, inspiration. Poetic, melodic, flash mob. Spontaneous, inspiration. Poetic. Here I go again, speaking poetically into a mic. No, it's okay. The lights aren't too bright. I actually rather like the limelight. I like to shine my light till it's out of sight. I like to be blinded by insight. I like to fly my kite to the heights. And yeah, I like to keep it tight. I can give you a black and a white. I can give you a left and a right. I can give you a fuss and a fight, but only in a good way, because my God is love. And my God doesn't smite. My God delights in me, shining bright with the light of this love. Reminding all, God is within you, not just up above. Reminding all, God is within you, not just up above. Because God is love and love is God. God is love and love is God. And when you live that truth, heaven comes to earth and gives you the knowledge. God is love and love is God. God is love and love is God. And when you live that truth, truth, heaven comes to earth and gives you the night. So here I am again, speaking poetically into a mic. No, it's okay, the lights aren't too bright. I actually rather like the limelight. I like to shine my light till it's out of sight. I like to be blinded by insight. I like to fly my kite to the heights. And yeah, sure, I like to keep it tight. I can give you a black and a white. I can give you a left and a right. I can give you a fuss and a fight, but only in a good way. Because my God is love and my God doesn't smite. My God delights in me, shining bright with the light of this love. Reminding all that God is within you, not just up above. Reminding all that God is within you, not just up above. Because God is love and love is God. God is love and love is God. And when you live that truth, heaven comes to earth and gives you the nod. God is love and love is God. God is love and love is God. And when you live that truth, heaven comes to earth and gives you the nod. There we go. And the crowd goes wild. Okay, I've got a couple more. 2 more to finish up. What's the time? 2:10. Great, I'm on time. I love it when I'm on time. Let's have a quick look. Level's fine. Thank you very much, Mary and Tracy and Jade. Yes, it sounded perfect. Lovely. Okay, so for my penultimate piece, so I started a community interest company called 1 Trillion Trees a few months ago because I received, as I said before, Chris Paradox was born under a tree in a park, so I consider myself a nature mystic in that my connection to my soul and to spirit and to the world comes through nature. And nature has given me the inspiration. Nature inspires me all the time, so my creativity comes from nature, my joy comes from nature. And now that I've moved here to Portugal, I'm surrounded by nature, so everyone keeps telling me how happy I look, and that's because I'm home. I'm now living on the land, and I can be constantly fed and nurtured and inspired by nature. And I see that the only real solution to humanity destroying the planet and or destroying itself is through us evolving our consciousness. We need to evolve, as Charles Eisenstein would say, from the story of separation or the illusion of separation into the story of unity or interbeingness, which is where our souls come from. And that type of conscious evolution takes focus and work. And I've created a real-life role-playing crowdfunding game called 1 Trillion Trees, which by playing the game, anyone who plays the game will naturally, in the course of playing the game, evolve their consciousness in 3 ways. The first is that the first thing that we have to do to evolve and not destroy the planet is to shift from a place of lack where all we do is take from Mother Nature because we're afraid of scarcity, so we just basically pollute, destroy, degrade, chop down forests, pollute the oceans. It's a taking mentality. We take and then we waste and we pollute. We need to shift to a giving, an abundance place where we give abundantly back to Mother Nature, as Claire, the wonderful Claire de Bois says from Tree Sisters. And the simplest way to make that change is to recognize that what we've done on this planet is make money our God. We've put, because of the corporate structure of the world, we've put profits and money. Everybody needs money to survive. All the criminal activity and violence around that is because of money. So by making money our God, we've literally doomed ourselves, because it's inevitable that if you place money as the highest value over people and planet, eventually you will destroy people and planet for profit, which is exactly what we see happening. So we have to change that. And the simplest way to change that is, instead of making money our God, we should make Gaia our goddess, because Gaia is our goddess. Mother Earth has given us everything that we have. She is the most obvious, imminent, practical, down-to-earth, recognizable, divine being in our reality, except for maybe Father, Son. And in order to shift from making money the God to making Gaia the goddess, we have to convert money into trees, because trees are our Mother Earth's favorite children. There's no single species that does as much for as many species in as many ways as trees. Not just in terms of biodiversity and habitat and food and ecosystems, but also in terms of regenerating the soil. Trees can regreen the deserts, bring back the water cycle, recharge the water table, draw carbon out of the atmosphere. Trees do it all, basically. And there was a scientific study a few months ago that said that there's enough land on the world, if we ignore urban and farmland, there is enough land on the world to plant 1 trillion trees, and 1 trillion trees would protect our biodiversity, protect our ecosystems, regreen the deserts, draw enough carbon out of the air to return us to 100 years ago. Basically, trees are the answer. And by committing to this crowdfunding mission of planting 1 trillion trees by 2030, we would be doing the first step in evolving our consciousness. We would become givers back to Mother Nature, and we would convert money into nature. The second thing we need to do is our economy, our fossil fuel economy, but actually it's deeper than that. Our economy is what I call a take economy, just like we were talking about with Mother Earth. In our economy, the one who takes or acquires or gets the most wins. The billionaires, the biggest corporations. So it's this competitive economy where it's dog eat dog, all these losers, most people are losers, and then you've got the winners. Again, that kind of zero-sum economy where we're competing with each other dooms us. That kind of economy will destroy the planet and the people, obviously. So what we need to do is shift to the type of economy that human beings operated under for 200,000 years before the 10,000 years of agriculture, which is when we started these hierarchical, winner takes it all type of economies. And that is a gift economy. Human beings evolved living in band hunter-gatherers, and there was an understanding that everybody shared. And actually, in a gift economy, it's the one who gives the most who wins, not the one who takes the most. And if you think about it very simply, if everybody is focused on giving, everybody's going to get. And it's so simple that if everybody's focused on getting for themselves, selfishly trying to acquire, obviously you're going to have poor, you're going to have all of the things that we have, inequality, but if everybody's focused on giving in the gift economy and not worried about getting because everybody else is giving, it solves the problem. So we need to convert from a take economy to a gift economy, and the game itself is a gift economy. So we reward players. Players get a better score and rise up in the leaderboard by giving, both in terms of how many trees they plant, how many local projects. We match fund local permaculture, tree planting, regenerative agriculture projects, and how much they give to inform, inspire, and empower their fellow players. So it's the ones who give the most in this game that win, not the ones who get the most. And the third way that we need to evolve, and the game helps us to do that, is the fundamental spiritual error of othering. Othering is when we see the world, nature, as an other, and that's why we exploit it brutally and use it and pollute it, because we see nature as this thing, this other thing that we're allowed to dominate, and we treat each other the same way. The golden rule is treat others as you would like to be treated, but we don't do that. None of us likes to be judged. In fact, we all hate to be judged, yet we all judge. So we're all hypocrites. We all habitually and in a conditioned way do things to others that we don't like being done to ourselves. And the reason we do that is because we see them as others. We see them as separate. If we recognized our unity and our interbeingness, we would know never to do anything to anyone else that you don't want to yourself, because we're one. So you are doing it to yourself. So the end of the golden rule that no one ever says, do unto others as you would have it done unto you, because it is being done unto you. That's the thing that we've forgotten and will doom us. If we continue to treat nature and each other as others, as separate, we will continue to do man's inhumanity to man and everything you see happening in the world. And the way the game, playing the game, helps us to evolve our consciousness in that way is that we create a space where everybody who plays the game is seen as what they actually are. A member of the one human family, a brother and a sister, an equal in the eyes of spirit and equal in the eyes of life. Everybody is as worthy and as lovable and as divine as everybody else. If we simply treated each other that way, even if we don't like someone, we can still treat them as an equal, and we can still not other them. We don't have to get on with everyone. We just have to not judge, condemn, blame, demonize, and dehumanize them, which is what we do all over the place to each other. So those are the three aspects of the game. If you're interested, send me a message on my page, Chris Paradox, Inspiration Engineer. We're hoping to launch in September. We're developing the game at the moment and getting it all set up, but I'll put you on a list and let you know when it's ready. And this next poem is our anthem. It's called 1 Trillion Trees, and it's the anthem of the community of the game. Okay. One trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, 1 trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, 1 trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, 1 trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion trillion trees, 1 trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, trillion 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 trees, 1 trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, trillion 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 trees, 1 trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, trillion 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 trees, 1 trillion trees, 1 trillion birds, 1 trillion bees, the regeneration of Mother Earth with 1 trillion seeds, protecting biodiversity, reversing climate emergency, with an urgent emerging fertility, in the unbelievably fecund versatility of a fundamentally sound ecology, with humanity responsibly evolving to be unity, beautifully, through the mystery, 1 trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, trillion, trillion, trillion trees. 1 trillion trees can turn deserts into forest gardens, sequester 100% of atmospheric carbon, feed every single one of our starving, and finally get our conscious evolution started. 1 trillion trees can heal Mother Earth, you see, from the idiocy and perversity of allowing greed to extinct species. I beg of you, please, be reasonable. Plant 1 trillion trees. Yes, it is feasible. It's not beyond our grasp. It's reachable, because planting trees as forest gardens is absolutely unimpeachable. A trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion trillion trees. See, this isn't my idea, seriously. This really isn't about me. You see, 1 trillion trees, CIC, was totally the brainchild of those beautiful things with leaves. See, I was kind of born under a tree. I'm kind of a tree devotee, so they kind of talk to me like a lover, and they take care of me like a mother. They remind me there is no other. Every woman a sister, every man a brother. So for me, a tree is a symbol of unity. Trees are the epitome of beauty, and deep in my heart I feel it's my duty to help you see what I see. And what the trees are telling me is that we can save the world by planting a trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, a trillion trees, trillion, trillion, trillion trees. Okay, thank you very much. And the crowd goes wild. Okay, last one. We've come to the end, ladies and gentlemen. How am I doing for time? Okay, great. 6 minutes. Perfect. That's just enough time to do my last one, which is my favourite. And it is one of the things that you experience, as I said, I experienced in the park and I experience now, is what I call seeing through the loving eyes of God. And that's seeing everybody non-judgmentally, not as another, but as an expression of yourself. In Lakesh, as the Mayans would say, or Namaste, as they would say in the Hindu religion. And my experience of this comes from recognizing that there is nothing but angels. We're all angels. We're all perfect children of God. We're all perfect rays of light from the one light. We're all divine sparks of consciousness. And this song is called All the Angels. All the angels, 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 the perfect child of God, all the angels, the perfect child of God, all the angels, a perfect child of God, all the angels, you're a perfect child of God, all the angels, 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 you're a perfect child of God, all the angels, 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 you're a perfect child of God. I see nothing but angels. From the point of view of separation, this perception is extremely dangerous, because whether it's family, friends or strangers, everybody looks like angels or us. You all look the same to me, strangely glorious, unity once again victorious. I guess the illusion of separation just became way too laborious. It seemed to be a tall order for all of us to actually be the notorious, all that is, the absolute, that one, the isnness, singing the song of the singularity, with nothing but peace, joy, love and hilarity, in solidarity, for the clarity of non-duality, seeing through our illusions, saying see ya, would want to be ya, to our delusions. No more judging each other and condemning each other and jumping to all sorts of conclusions, because only love is real, because love alone heals. Because when I see your light shining bright, I get all the feels. See, we're all problem humans. We all have the same delusions. See, we're all part of the problem. We all live in the same illusion. So we're all part of the solution. We're all part of the solution. We're all part of the solution. A singing in unison, a non-dual fusion, a gaining without losing, a more beautiful union, a not so bruising, not so abusing, not so unamusing, not so unassuming future for human nature, a healing vision for the human condition, which by the way is entirely the result of our separation, superstition, and only arises from the perception of one who self-identifies as a victim, because before you dreamed you could ever find yourself in such a ridiculous predicament, you were one with the whole, a perfect child of God. You are now and forever shall be a perfect child of God, always and eternally a perfect child of God. You cannot be other than a perfect child of God. You cannot be other than you're a perfect child of God. There we go. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That is the show. What time we got? 20:30, exactly on time. I love it. I love it. Thank you very much for staying with me, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Chris Paradox. As I said, you can find me on my page, Chris Paradox Inspiration Engineer. I hope you've been entertained, informed, inspired, and empowered. It's been my absolute pleasure. Lots of love and stay beautiful.